Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Discussion about why we should care about Western civilization, particularly from the lens of literature, why we should try and understand it and foster it. I think the first step is understanding it before you can determine if it should be saved or not. Today, we're going to look at two parables from the New Testament, the Christian New Testament, and one play from Shakespeare. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I love looking at the so-called problem plays of Shakespeare. We will look at one of them, less about the play itself and more in the sense of using the play to look at the validity or not of these parables. Where it came from was a discussion with a couple friends about something called Parable of the Talents, which is a famous parable. It's in Matthew 25, the Bible, and we will read through it. It's very, very interesting. And a friend was, I love this friend, I respect him very much. The friend was very upset about the parable, thought it was very unfair, and I had not read the parable in a long time, so I reread it. And my view was this is a great parable, and in many ways maybe emblematic of like if you could only choose one story from the Bible to represent some of the core aspects of the Bible. I mean, you always have the 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 Sermon on the Mount, but this is a little bit more on the realm of self-actualization or transubstantiation, which we might talk about a bit. But I'm going to read it and we will talk about it. So this is from Matthew chapter 25, uh, beginning at verse 14, and I'm reading from the New King James. I like the Old King James, but for public, we're going to go New King James. Is a little bit better with some of the old language. Before we begin, I should mention that a talent is a large sum of money. We'll talk about more later about how large it is, but for now, just know it's a large sum of money. Okay, so here we go. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another two, and to another one, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5 talents. And likewise, he who had received two gained two more also. But he who had received one went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, so you might, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but you might imagine why this is one of the most controversial statements in Christianity and in Western civilization, because the first person gets 5 talents is a lot of money. Second person gets two. Last person gets one, right? The Lord, the master, is has his own estimation as to the value of these three servants. And the one who was only given the 1 talent buries it in the ground, doesn't do anything with it, doesn't make use of his life's value, his life's potential. And the Lord takes that 1 talent, gives it to the five. It says, You're banished from our lands. Okay. So you can imagine how that might be a little controversial. My friend's view is typical of the view, and I'll just say part of it does divide a little bit on like right left lines. My friend's more on the left side of things and saying, well, it is not fair. Why can't he just keep the one? Or why can't the person who has 10 give some to the one with one? And so this is where it gets interesting, right? The Lord, we don't know why there's lords and servants. That's just a given the story, and obviously this is a very old story, probably much older than when it was even written down. But there's lords and servants. The Lord trusts his servants with this large sum of money. All of them, even one talent is a huge sum of money. The first one makes back his money. The second one makes back his money. The third one does worse than not, he doesn't try, but he's resentful and he's cynical about his own even capacity to do it because of his view of where he stands in the overall social hierarchy, right? Hierarchy of things. One of the ironies is the person who was given five and the person who was given two, they had a faith in this sense, the Lord, it's related to the idea of a God, but like in the work sense, that's all you have, right? It's a Lord. The person who had five had a deep amount of faith, and it's not even so much about faith, it's more they self-actualize. They develop their own innate capacity and skill in such a way that they were able to double this insanely large amount of money. And because of that, because the person who's given five and doubled it, the person who's given two and doubled it, those first two servants, they now are less servants and more masters. And we'll see a little bit later with this. The parable of the Minas is kind of like a sister parable. It's very related. So they started off as servants, but they were able to develop themselves. They self-actualized, right? They took ownership of an opportunity given to them, and now they're less servants and they're more masters because the master's saying, you've I'm going to honor your faith. I'm going to let you I'm going to make you a master of many things, right? Let me see the specific line. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things, and I will make you a ruler over many things. Okay. So since they had that faith and since they developed their own skill, and this is kind of, long story short, this is one of the implications of our modern concept of talent, right? Innate capacity, innate ability that might be developed, right? It's not just money. It used to be a more term more associated just with money. Now it's more associated with innate capacity, and part of it comes from the story. So the person given five, the person given two, they had faith. They had faith in their Lord, which I'm sort of divorcing the tale from the overall context of because part of it's a discussion of what do we do while Christ is gone, and I'm not going too much into the religious aspects of it, although it's a story from the New Testament, so how much it's going to be there. But just from the servant master relationship, right? The person with five, person with two, they develop their capacity, their work is rewarded, and in so doing, they become less of a servant, more of a master. They're now going to be in charge of, responsible for more things. Their faith will be rewarded, okay? Because they had faith in the universe or they had faith in God slash their own divine capacity, capability, innate skill, and talent. Okay, it's a combination of those things. Um, and one was given five, one was given two. We'll see it in the Minas in a moment. The one who was only given the one, he didn't even try. He could have given to a bank, and that it would have done better than doing nothing, right? It would have at least like gained a marginal amount more because we don't know how long the master was gone. It's unclear. Long enough for the five talent guy and the two talent servant to double their amount of double what they were given, which is cool. But the guy with the one, he chose it's some combination of like nihilism and cynicism, right? And it's partially cynicism towards we'll go through that. Nihilism in the sense that like he didn't view that there was any point to doing this. He also had a negative view of the Lord, which in a sense is God and the universe, because that's all we know. This story is the universe within itself, right? We don't really know much context beyond that. The universe gave him a chance. In this story, it's a lord, it's a master, he's a servant. He was given a chance. He chose to forsake that chance. He chose to say, no, because I resent the universe, I resent my station in life, I resent you, I resent how you do business, on and on and on, whatever combination. We're giving just a little glimpse into it, but we can imagine what it is, what it represents, and we'll see it in a moment with Minas. He takes a cynical sideline. He's sitting on the cynical sideline. He's resenting the universe. He's resenting both God, which is also the master, which is also his own ability to exist in the universe. He's making that choice. And he's wasting his life. He's wasting his talent. He's wasting his capacity. He's wasting his chance to do anything. And as a consequence, he's not going to get the same fate as the five talent and the two talent people who are now less servants, more masters. They're able to be more responsible and more like a lord, right? He's cast out. And it's a huge point of contention because my liberal friends, well, he doesn't, everyone should get the same amount. Okay, here's the thing. A talent is about 20 years of a laborer's wages. Okay. It's a huge amount. Imagine what you make in a year, what an average American, just for an example, an analogy. Imagine what they make now. Takes 20 years of that, right? So the dude with five talents, he was given 100 years of labor. Okay. Two talent and one talent. One talent, still 20 years of labor, right? That's a massive. Imagine if you run a small company or you lent to your cousin 20 years of wages. Just and then they did nothing with it. They like didn't even like and inflation's going to outpace them, right? That's a little funny irony. That it's going to be worth less if they just I buried it in the dirt, boss. Or a lot of people make the joke about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with the grandparents living in a bed for 20 years, right? Think about it less in terms of money, think about it in terms of time. What if you had a cousin that just wasted 20 years of their life? What would your response to them be? Would you say, "Oh, just give him another 20 years. Hope let him figure it out." Um, you know. So that's the choice that person made. Two other examples of people that figured it out that had faith. They didn't choose to be resentful over their opportunity and their station in life. Again, all we know is the story. We don't know anything else about these people. We know nothing about the master. What we know about the master is he gave three opportunities for improvement, improvement for development of capacity, and development of being fruitful for these servants, right? Two of them chose correctly within the logic of this story. One of them chose to be resentful and nihilistic and a view of nothing. And that person doesn't deserve to live in the society, in that society of trust and opportunity that the Lord gave those chances to, right? So he should have been cast out. He shouldn't have been given another 20 years of chances. You could even say, and this is like, I don't really want to go, I just want to like pose it to be a little bit provocative. You could say that the master was too charitable with the third servant, right? Because he was correct in his estimation, and maybe less to say less charitable, and maybe or he was too charitable, and maybe better to say he misestimated the third servant, right? Because he was correct with servants one and two. They both uh, did well with their opportunity, and again, it's not about money, right? It's about opportunity and self-actualization and becoming more godly. We didn't really talk about that, but for you to have, for you to be, this is within the Western scope of theology, you to actualize is for you to develop more power because you want more responsibility because you want to do more good, right? Like leaving the universe isn't within the Christian concept isn't a good thing. So I don't want to participate in the world. I'm going to go live over here. That's not the Western view. The Western view is to develop your capacity to have more responsibility to do more good. So you could argue, just for fun argument, that the master was too charitable and or misestimated the third servant because he was wrong. Like he did not live up to his faith. Now, can you imagine what the third servant would say, or what defenders of the third servant would say if he was never even given a chance? Oh, come on, man, come on, this guy, stupid boss, crusty old dean, never gave me a chance. But it is worth pointing out he did get a chance, and he chose willingly to forsake his chance. Right. Growing up in Tacoma, we had this thing when I was like in middle school. If it was like during the summer, if you were sleeping in during the summer, the boys in the neighborhood we would do this. And like I was the victim of it once. I helped on the other side of it. Oh, the victim is a strong word. But if you were sleeping in the summer, the neighborhood boys would wake you up and say, "You're wasting the day. Get the hell up." We have basketball games to play. We got to ride our BMXs. We got to listen to cassette tapes. Um, that last part was not true. But like you're wasting a day. You waste like this is peak summer. We're like I remember seventh, eighth grade. This is what we did, and we just play basketball all day, or we just whatever, going around, whatever video games. Like you're doing something. You're not wasting a day. So imagine wasting 20 years, right? We joke about Grandpa Joe wasting 20 years until Charlie gets a fortune, and all of a sudden he's motivated. And of course, that's a comic cynical take, right? Because at least he got up and at least he did change. And of course, it's a children's novel. Anyway, so yeah, worth pointing out the suggestion that maybe the master was too charitable or misestimated the third one. You can imagine the as I mentioned, the critiques from the left, like he wasn't even given a chance, but he was given a chance. Okay. Now, part of what my friend was saying, and part of what a lot of people say as a critique of this. Well, okay, this was famously recast from the communists, from Karl Marx and Engels, where that phrase of each according to his ability. What does it say there? Look it up. Each according to his own ability. Right, each according to his own ability is what it says in 25:15. Uh, Marx and Engels, I forget if it was Communist Manifesto or where, but it's a common idea among the leftists of each according to his ability, each according to his need, which is a very different idea, saying that everyone deserves some fundamental quality. And again, I'm not advocating for anything political per se. I do think this story cuts along sort of the left-right spectrum a little bit. But the critique is that it's unfair. I think, well, one, most people don't know that a talent is such an insanely large source of money. And again, it's not about money, it's about choices and faith in the universe and self-actualization, right? But people do resent it and they think that, oh, well, he could have earned at least something. And but you need to realize how much of a deeper theological point it is for this third servant to reject his own being. It's almost like a self-annihilation kind of concept. He doesn't have faith in the universe, doesn't have faith in the Lord, the person who's giving him an opportunity to do anything, right? We don't know that without this Lord, this third servant had any chance at all for anything, right? And the story does end with him being banished, which within the theological logic of the story is correct. It's the correct choice. This person wasted his chance. And that's not to say, like, like modern society, we give people second, third, fourth, 30th chances, right? And again, this isn't a political point, but the master was correct. And the third servant was not only mistaken, but evil. He rejected his own capacity. So my buddy and I were trying to like brainstorm, well, what would it be like if, because this common among the left is to say, well, like this third servant, they should be the ones running society. We could have it more based on fairness or equity or something like that, right? So, and we were trying to brainstorm what would it be like if that third servant what if they were the master? What would they do, right? And would it be a good society? And we were trying to come up with it, and I realized that it's sort of like Timon of Athens, which it's one of Shakespeare's problem plays, as I mentioned. That's my area of research and discussion a lot of the time. The earliest videos in this channel, if you're curious, it's more in-depth discussion of the Merchant of Venice, which a play I love very much. I recently did a video on Measure for Measure, which isn't released yet. It will be soon. Um, the two problem plays I focus on most emphatically. Timon of Athens is it's a lesser known, a lesser appreciated. It's not as good, in fairness, but I always try to figure out, well, how could it be the best, and what lens will help us make more sense of the play? And I realized, and sort of had this thought for a while, and other people have other academics have brought this up, but it struck me in a new way of how Timon of Athens really is a play off of the parable of the talents. It's an inversion of it, and it really is a great example of what would happen if the third servant was the master. So it's really interesting to compare because it's hard to argue that Shakespeare isn't correct, and it's such a funny adaptation of so many things, which I don't think I'll be able to cover here because I haven't studied it in as much depth as I have Merchant of Venice or Measure for Measure, but I'll give you some basics. There's a good version of the play by BBC in the 80s. I think it's not Jonathan Pryce. Forget his name. Okay, so the story is, and it's he's a character from classical Greece. It's sort of the decline of the Greek Republic, the Greek decline of the Greek Golden Age. So Timon is a super wealthy lord. We don't know how he came across his money. All we know is he's super wealthy, and we know that he is not a good judge of character. And he's not good at spending his money or uh, utilizing his money because he's very generous, overly generous, right? The first scene is a little discussion between a poet and a painter, and they're laying out that fact like Timon, he's over prodigal. He's giving too much money away to people that don't really value him, right? So imagine that master who's giving all of the money to the third servant, right? This kind of what this is in a way. It's not a good judge of character. The play has certain points to make about kind of the culture of Greece at that time of what Greece valued, because he's a lord within Greece. Again, we don't know how he got the money. The only historical record of Timon, as far as my knowledge, I think comes from Plutarch, is a little short line, and it's just at the very end. And so Shakespeare's giving us like how this person got to that point, right? And we'll talk about where that point is. So the first the like first scene with Timon is a guy coming to Timon, and he like Timon is just giving out jewelry, money, horses, just flowing. It's like making it rain, all kinds of stuff. But the first significant interaction is someone coming to him. I think it's a dad or it's a buddy, and he's like, "Oh, my son is in jail, and he needs 5 talents. He's in debt, and he needs 5 talents to get out of it." Right? Okay, so right off the bat, you're like, "All right, there's something there." You'll see it more as the more you if you read the two in parallel, you'll see it. And again, I'm not the first to point this out. Um, he's in debt and he's in jail and he needs 5 talents to get it out. So okay, so this is almost an inverse of the first servant, right? This person's in debt, like he's in debt 100 years of labor. He's in debt for whatever I forget. I don't know. His name's Ventidius. I forget if they specify which crime. We just know that that's a crazy amount of money. 100 years of labor is how much you owe. And Timon says, "Oh, sure. Don't talk to my servant. It's yours, whatever, right?" So he pays 5 talents immediately to someone who not only is the opposite of someone that's you're going to give it to and they're going to give it back to you. It's someone who is in debt to that, and you're giving them that huge amount of money just to get back to baseline, right? So already kind of hilarious in a brainy way, not in a stand-up comic kind of way, but like that's a really funny version of the parable of the talents. Ventidius comes like a scene or two later and says, "Oh, thank you so much, Timon. Please, his dad died or something. This guy who just got out of prison. Please take this 5 talents from me as a gift, as a gift back to you." Which is okay, cool, right? Timon says, "Oh no, no, no. Don't worry about it." I forget what he says, but true nobility is not to accept those kinds of things. And so again, it's kind of a funny inversion. Um, Where you could say on one hand, okay, you're helping somebody out who needs it, and then they're going to pay you back, and okay, you're square, right? But it's to highlight the point that Timon is an awful judge of character. He's an awful, and he doesn't accord himself in a way that is conducive to a healthy society, right? And Greece at that time is allowing this person is they made this person a lord for whatever reason. Okay, the next funny thing that happens is Timon has a servant, Lucilius, who's been wooing this daughter of some Athenian, important Athenian, and the Athenian dad comes and he's like, "Look, I don't want your servant to marry my daughter. He's not worthy." Like, and the implication he's not a worthy person to be in this marriage. Um, and so Timon says, "Oh well, let me give you 2 talents, and will that suffice?" And the Athenian, because it's kind of corrupt, is like, "Okay, sure, well, let's do that, right?" Um, in previous periods of Greek history, it was much more important to have like valuable marriages based on valuable people, but money solves it, right? And so even though this servant of his, someone he has been in charge of, is not a valuable human being, right? That one that would be worthy of this woman's hand in marriage, he's he mistakenly sends the money to create this marriage, which is not going to yield good results, right? So again, showing his misestimation of character, right? He's wasting 2 talents again on someone that, again, going back to the parable, that 2 talents has gone. Like you wait, it's not investment at all. It's not going to come back to society in any kind of way. And it's not just about like the practical effects of it. It's more about what's the quality of character of mind of that individual of Timon versus the master, right? Okay, we learn from another one of Timon's service, I think Flavius, or yeah, Flavius, that Timon's broke. He's actually quite broke, and he keeps trying to give money away, but and he's tried to tell Timon about it for some time, but Timon is again not in accord with reality. He's not a good judge of character, and society supports that. So he now is in debt, and he's everything's already mortgaged, everything's already sold. He's given away pretty much everything, and so he starts asking for money from the people that he'd been so generous to in the past. And one by one, there's actually like these like darkly and kind of cruel, but comic in their own way scenes where they'd be like, "Oh no, I couldn't be bothered," and one person just feigns such a BS response, like, "Oh, he didn't ask me first. Oh, I definitely can't give him money then." Like, no way. And at one point, one of the people that he'd been so generous towards, and he's like wearing all of Timon's, I almost said Thanos, wearing all of Timon's rings. He's the one that goes and like gives him the summons, like, "Hey, I need this debt from you. I need this debt collected." And the debt is again is like a bunch of talents, but it's never materialized. And all of his friends do not get him back at all, right? Which is again misestimation of character. Timon holds a banquet. He invites him like, "Oh, everything's in the past. Don't worry about it. Um, come over for one final banquet." And he serves them just stones and water, and it's this big kind of fu to them. All along, there's a philosopher, a guy named Apomantus, who's like this real cynical person. And he's like the only one who has uh, any real estimation of the characters and what they really value, who they really are. It's kind of funny, like Ape Man, Apomantus. And it's almost in a way that Socrates is like a little bit of a shadow throughout this whole play in the sense that Apomantus is almost an inverse, but also we're going to get to Alcibiades in a minute, one of Socrates' famous students who we see the end of Alcibiades' life here. Okay, yeah, so Alcibiades, he's a general that had been defending Athens. One of Alcibiades' military officers got in a hot-blooded fight with somebody else and killed him, and he's in jail and he's going to be killed. The Athenians are going to kill him, and Alcibiades pleads like, "Look, I've defended the city countless times. Um, just can we make some sort of allowance for this soldier of mine?" And the Athenians say no. Not only that, you're banished, right? So it's a funny inversion again. And again, like Socrates isn't in this play. It's the opposite, just one of his students, but the society's been so overturned, right? I mean, I don't know per se, I'm not the best with the Greek history, but it seems like this is the period after Socrates is already dead. So the Athenians say, Alcibiades, you have to leave. If you're in the city within 2 days, I think then we're going to kill you. And so Alcibiades says, okay, fine, I'll vow revenge on the city. You didn't appreciate, you didn't have a good estimation of me and what the defense was worth to you. I will now revenge my condition and I'm going to sack Athens. So it's a hilarious inversion. He's cast out. Um, I will say, let's go over to the parable of the Minas real quick because it's a funny way to get into that before we get to the final conclusion. So the parable of the Minas is from Luke chapter 19, also the New Testament. Here we go. Now, as they heard these things, he spoke another parable, because he was near Jerusalem and because they thought the kingdom of God would appear immediately. Therefore he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and said to them, do business till I come. A minas is a much smaller amount of money. But his citizens hated him and sent a delegation after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. And so it was that when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants, to whom he had given the money, to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, master, your mina has earned 10 minas. And he said to him, well done, good servant, because you were faithful in a very little, have authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, master, your mina has earned 5 minas. Likewise he said to him, you also be over 5 cities. Then another came, saying, master, here is your mina, which I have kept put away in a handkerchief. For I feared you, because you are an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit, and reap what you did not sow. And he said to him, out of your own mouth I will judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, that at my coming I might have collected it with interest? And he said to those who stood by, take the mina from him, and give it to him who has 10 minas. But they said to him, master, he has 10 minas. For I say to you, that to everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. But bring here those enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them and slay them before me. So that is a wild story to a modern ear. But I'll say the same thing holds true, right? And it's the same sort of example, right? With the one person, he was given one meat, he made 10. The story is better in a different way because it's very equal opportunity. It's much more equal opportunity. Everyone gets the one mina. And the most productive, the most divine in this sense, um, turns that one into 10. And the master, so, but the great thing, the master says, I'm going to make you ruler over 10 cities because you had faith in yourself. You had faith in me. I'm going to have faith in you. You've proven yourself. Now you can run 10 cities, right? So this is a good leader. This is a good servant. This is a good universe that rewards that level of investment in self-actualization and becoming more divine. Okay. And also the same way, kicking the guy with the one talent though and the one mina, the person who buried it, banishing them, that is the correct choice. And the people in this parable, the minas, that wanted to overthrow him, they're the worst. You you have it's you're not only just wasting your opportunity, you're actively trying to supplant the good leader, the good ruler. You should be killed. And that's I'm not saying that from a modern perspective of, killing anybody. I don't advocate for death. I'm against all the bad things, right? Just like you. But this is correct, okay? So I bring that in because one, it's a great parallel to the parable of the talents, but also because it's a fun it's the sister parable, and it's great to read them together. You kind of get both sides of it. But also because it brings us to Alcibiades, which is so funny. I mean, in real history, Alcibiades, I think he was a Athenian and then he fought for Sparta and then for, I forget who the third one, but another empire, Persia. I think he fought for Persia. Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, Timon mentions early on in the play that his land stretched from Athens to Lacedaemon, which is Sparta. So kind of funny little parallel. So Alcibiades says, so since the Athenians, their society is corrupt, like imagine the inverse of those two masters in the parables, right? Because they did not value the safety and the defense of their own countries. They couldn't value people correctly. Timon is a good example of that. They don't value their defenders, and so they kick out their defender. Now he's going to flip. He's going to become those protesters from the Minas in a way, right? In a way, in a stretch. So, um, again, this is a super nutshell of a pretty complex play. I'd recommend you read all of them. Read the two parables and read Timon of Athens, and let me know if you think I'm way off or if you want to talk about it. I was doing something recently with like a video response, which is kind of fun. Like my buddies and I were having this controversial discussion, and I recorded a short video, and then they responded with short videos in response. It was more like a Lincoln Douglas debate. It was kind of fun. Anyway, so yeah, read them all. Back to the story, Timon. He loses everything, and he becomes a hermit, and he lives in a cave in like a little hovel out in nowhere. And he just like he's so pissed off. He's adopted Appomattus's view of like how everyone's evil, how like everyone's messed up, and how people just want to use you, right? And because he was like the shitty master. He was the master that was giving money to all the wrong people, the people that did not deserve it, that could not make any value from it. Um, and when he needed it, they weren't there to support him at all, right? So now he's living on the outs. He's living out in the woods, um, and he's digging in the dirt to eat roots, just to like he's such a misanthrope. But this is I mentioned I think is Plutarch. Um, the only thing we know about Timon is he's just like this famous misanthrope, someone who hates mankind. He lives in the cave and he eats roots. That's like all we know. And so Shakespeare did all this sort of like how he got there. And Thomas Middleton too, the same guy who probably was his main collaborator on Measure for Measure and a lot of other plays, and a playwright in his own right as well. So he's digging roots, and as he's digging roots to eat, he finds a huge hoard of gold in the ground, right? Just like the third servant, right, who buried the talent in the earth. Now, now Timon, he hates mankind. He doesn't want to be part of society. Now he becomes super wealthy again, right? It's so funny. It's so funny to me. And so, of course, the flatterers come, like, oh, hey, Timo, just want to check up on you. How's everything? Hey, I made this painting for you. I don't know if you want to buy it or anything. Like, I wrote this poem for you too. It's so gross. It's like you feel gross watching, hearing these lines, reading these lines. Uh, so Timon has adopted this kind of hilarious and like just dark view of them, and he's just clowning on them. And then Alcibiades comes, and Alcibiades is like he's a mix, but he genuinely like wants to check on him. And Alcibiades is like, hey, here's this money, sack Athens. Just kill them all. Oh, and also these prostitutes. Here, take this money. Go spread venereal disease in Athens. All right, so it kind of ends there. Like the final scenes, you skip forward, and there's like a couple, like Timon dies, and he's got this epithet, and Alcibiades reads, and it's just kind of this mixed ending, right? And again, it's not a great play, but it's such a funny adaptation. Shakespeare is so brilliant with what he does. I mean, modern examples like the Coen brothers, if you're taking like a bunch of different sources into a new composition, Shakespeare is a master of that. He has not been bested so far, 400 years and counting. But anyway, that's a few, two parables and a play. Again, not the best play, but still really, really funny when you view it from this lens. And I think more so than looking at the play itself, fun to look at these parables and like, okay, how would you really do it in such a way where this third servant isn't just someone that is making the wrong choices and doesn't deserve to live in the graces of a good society, which is what the parables are about. So again, there's a deeper religious layers to it because in both those parables, it's Christ talking about what to do in my absence when I'm gone, right? And that's so like in both cases, the master is leaving. So it's sort of like, what are you going to do till I get back? And it's sort of like, what are you going to have to show for your life, right? Like, what do you want again, like it's just, what do you want on your tombstone? What do you want to say you have done? And it's not just things. It's like you being you self-actualizing. I'm glad I did not forget this part. Oh man, a long time ago I knew I had not remembered it till going through this play recently, but Timon of Athens is the favorite play of Karl Marx. And that is just so funny to me. And let me pull up his quotes because it's so silly. He's such a silly goose, and we love him, you know. Bless him, bless his little heart. Let me get his quotes. Okay, funny to mention first off, just Marx's life and like I mean, limited utility in making fun of people's like personal choices to critique their ideas. But just funny within this context that Mark's like never worked and was like bailed out from like his wife's like inheritance, and Friedrich Engels like always funding him to write these things. It's just so funny that in the context of the two parables in Timon, that's his like the guy's just kind of like a welfare cheat and just never doing anything productive except these terrible ideas. But so economic and philosophic manuscripts, 1844, something called The Power of Money. He goes through it's there's some interesting points he makes, but it's so funny the fact that he Timon of Athens was his favorite play, but he just took the like absolute worst takes and worst views of the play. It's just so funny to me, especially if you get it a little bit more. He quotes Timon talking about gold and how gold is like a whore, king killer, and you can read this online. He says Shakespeare excellently depicts the real nature of money, etc. And like he says, money turns one thing into its opposite. He says Shakespeare stresses especially. I don't really want to go into it to be too honest with you because it's he's such a bad thinker. But I'll quote you a little bit. He says, Shakespeare stresses especially two properties of money. It is the visible divinity, the transformation of all human and natural properties into their contraries, the universal confounding and distorting of things. Impossibilities are soldered together by it. Two, it is the common horror, the common procurer of peoples and nations. One more. The distorting and confounding of all human and natural qualities, the fraternization of impossibilities, the divine power of money, lies in its character as men's estranged, alienating and self-disposing species nature. Money is the alienated ability of mankind. So again, and he goes on, and it gets worse. But you can read if you want. I have at it. I don't care. But it's so funny. He thinks the problem, and again, those two parables in this play, keep those in mind. The problem is not money itself. That's it's that's just the analogy. That's the thing being used. That's the thing being exchanged. That's the proxy for value for God, for providence, for your own abilities, for your own development of talent. It's the last thing that's really that important at all. And so for him, the fact that he loves Timon of Athens and he just takes the worst possible take just puts a nice little bow on this whole thing for me. And again, you can use that to reflect on this perversion of the quote of each according to his ability, for Marx to say each according to his ability, each according to his need, and realize that it's just I mean, man, I've talked to hundreds of his supporters. I've never got into his theories so much. Because I've just been so put off by his supporters. Just the most insufferable people I've ever met. Um, and again, if you like it, have whatever you like. But we'll end with that because it's such a funny bow to put on the whole thing. Okay, real quick, I forgot probably honestly the funniest part of the whole thing, the funniest like real bow at the end of the whole thing, which is Timon's in the cave. He discovers the money. The leaders of Athens come to him and say, "Hey, we're under assault. We will give you full power over the city, which in this case is the universe, if you just fund us. So full power, you can run the universe." And Timon says, "No." So it couldn't have been better. Shakespeare just made all just perfect choices with just the scathing rebuke of this thing. And so I'll end it with that because it's too good. So again, Western civilization, I think we should let it stick around for a while. We should keep it. We should study it. But the only way you're ever going to really know that is if you do study it, to make up your own mind, right? If for those, like I talked about in my Ireland video and a couple other videos, if you want to just cut it down because you think we should, that's not a good enough reason. And since the West is built on reason, you're going to need reason to fight it. And plenty of people already are, but yeah, you're going to have to do a little bit better than that. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Thanks.